Hello, people of the Come Up world. It's me, Nick, and this is the Come Up. I'm doing my part and keep these important conversations going this week of Juneteenth. A lot of reasons for celebration in the Black community. Maybe not in the world right now, but for what this day means for our history. I'm talking to a new friend. His name is Derek McPhatter, and he's a new friend, but I think I might like him and keep him. Let's figure it out. Here he is, Derek McPhatter.
Wow, that's a nice wind up. I'm all right. Making it, trying to figure things out. Trying not to get too intense, There's always something happening, but it seems like, I don't know, since November 2016, there's been like 20-somethings happening at once always. So, trying to find your balance in the midst of all of this is something I strive to every day. So you ask me how I'm doing. I say fine, but am I really fine? Are any of us fine? I don't know.
Right.
Because people have time to pay attention to like more of the outrages that happen to us all the time. People are saying like it's an awakening. The National Black Theater has been tweeting, and they're like, no, this is a reckoning. What we're in right now is a reckoning, this country, and I think that's right. It's like some people are waking up, but for a lot of us, this has been the truth because it is true. So it's like we've been fighting this fight for such a long time, and it's nice to see other folks showing up. But how are they showing up and in what ways and what's going to be different this time people show up? Those are questions I'm living with. And what I'm trying to do is not be mad about people showing up right now. That's how we are. That's how we're doing for Monday.
Happy Monday. For the people at home that don't know you or what you do, like what's like your background?
I am a playwright primarily. I usually say I write things for actors to do. So I work primarily in theater, but I've also done a little bit of television and film stuff. And I'm always doing something in the digital sphere as well. I tend to write fantasy sci-fi narratives. So like when I'm speaking to cultured theater people, the way that comes out is I write, of course, about race, gender, sexuality, class, of course, those wonderful intersections. I love intersectional characters. And usually what's the twist with Derek is I'm adding technology as another indice that we're pushing in there. And I'm making that a question. I'm making a question on technology part of it. Sometimes language is the technology. But there's some technology, there's some tool that is at work, and we're working through some sort of issue around identity or our lived experiences that technology helps us see different.
How did you end up like working as a playwright? And then why is technology kind of like a through line in your work?
Musicals have been like my favorite thing for like I have a couple of favorite things, but they've been one of my favorite things since before I was like a professional at anything. Right? And that's been a love that I never really thought I could do. I always knew I was a writer, but I was like, musicals, I didn't understand how you did that. I was very musical though as a child. I played the piano from second grade. I was groomed to be a classical pianist up until college. I did not go to a conservatory. I went to Morehouse, where I quickly became the accompanist at Morehouse. My friends in theater from Morehouse and Spelman were in New York hustling their theater projects, and they asked me to be the accompanist on one of their one-act showcases. They also asked me to be the sound designer, and I destroyed every single sound cue, did not understand what that was, but I got all the music right. And we started co-creating a lot of theater projects. And that was my entry into the indie theater scene in New York, the Black theater scene in New York. It felt right, and I've been doing it ever since with different kinds of folks. In terms of technology, I guess the thing is, the other thing besides musicals that I've always loved is sci-fi. And I love pulpy stuff. I love the silly stuff. I love pew, pew, pew. All of that stuff is fun. But I also consider theater a literary endeavor, and I consider Black culture worthy of the highest, of the arts. So I take all of that heft into my work as a writer. So as much as I love writing regular, what I call fun sci-fi, I'm always trying to bring a little bit more to it. So in the dramaturgy for my plays, it usually ends up that if I'm going to do a sci-fi sort of theme, I need to figure out what is it actually, what can it mean and how can it operate in a work of literature is what I'm aiming for. I don't always reach a work of literature, but I aim that high, and that's kind of why technology is that through line for me.
Musical theater, I love it. You love it.
Yes.
How do we as musical theater artists make sure that our work doesn't end up in this like nebulous space of like feel good and is actually having the conversations that it can?
First, I want to say, I think if it makes you feel good, there's a place for that. The audience for musical theater, I think, is an interesting question because I do think it appeals to a broader base than what it's written for, created for. But I do believe that we, as humans, need places we can go, narratives we can experience that make us feel good. And I think musical theater can do that. And when it does it well, I'm very, very happy. It's not the only thing it should do. Some of my favorite collaborators, what they've done when we collaborate is they ask, like, what do we want to leave the audience with? And what questions do we want people to say? What do we want that conversation to be after the theatrical experience? And if that's what we want, let's keep that in mind as a goal and look at what we're creating to generate that conversation. And if we're not getting there, we have more work to do. And often, as Black artists, that conversation we want to have is important, right? It's necessary. It's more than laughter. It's something that we haven't seen usually, that we haven't expressed. And we're trying to get people there. So if that's the goal, you've got to bring that goal into the development process. What's wonderful about music is it taps into the spirit in a way that words aren't always able to. And so it's very, very powerful. And I think it's that power and potential in musical theater that is what keeps me attracted to it. I think we have to take our talent seriously and take our medium seriously, even if the content isn't serious.
Something that you said when we chatted this weekend was that you often write for the audience that theater wants. And I kind of took that and made that your tagline.
Okay.
Because I like that frame. And I'm like, what is that? Like, who is in that audience?
Having worked in arts administration in various capacities, and especially when diversity is in, which it's in again, that's great. There's all this. Well, first of all, there's all this hand-wringing that theater's audience is too old and too white, and that demographic can't sustain theater through the 21st century, which I believe is true. And there's always all this work around, we need to get the Black folks and the brown folks and the young folks up in here on this Shakespeare or whatever. There's this consternation that what's considered the canon in theater is not resonating. And we know why it's not resonating, because we ain't in it. They should put having heard a lot of that in my 20s and even a little younger than my 20s, I was like, oh, theater is really invested in like changing it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to center people like your mother. I'm going to center my mother. I'm going to center the people that I know love stories. I'm going to see if they were sitting in the audience, what would they want to see on the stage that we don't have yet? Because we do actually have a wonderful Black canon that's underexplored. We get the August Wilsons, sometimes we get the Peroclesias, we get some of the newer ones. There's actually a deep history that's just not produced. So I was like, if we have all that, somebody should be doing that. So I'm gonna study that, but I'm not gonna try to replicate it. I'm gonna try to see, learning from that, what do I have to say that I think is worth, frankly, the collaborative process that it takes to get something on stage that would then not always please my mother, but have her coming out talking about some stuff, right? And what is some stuff that we need to talk about? And that's kind of the lens that I know I can write to, because I talk to people all the time, right? What's gratifying is, since I've been in this game some good number of years, I've seen that audience show up. I've seen the browner, younger, tech savvy. I've seen all those people when my plays actually do get made. The audience does look different than what you see at some of these larger institutions. They show up, and what's gratifying to me is that they're not all my friends. I'm like, who are you? How did you hear about it? Did you get the email? You really wanted to come? You read that blurb that said this is about 3 African-American women and a science experiment and blah, 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 and you thought that was the tea? You wanted to see this? No. Well, okay. Well, sit down. I don't know you. Do you know anybody in the cast? No. Well, okay. So, that's gratifying. And what makes me sad is, I was saying it's sort of like, yeah, it's pretty funny, but it makes me sad that we don't all get that opportunity to see that audience show up for us. But if theaters do the work, they will show up. They will.